Cristian Lara.
Hey.
Welcome
to the Artist Hour on the Voice of San Joaquin. So today's season 3, episode 3, and today we have Cristian Lara. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes.
All right. So Cristian, are you from Stockton?
Yes, I am. And I'd like to say thank you for having me.
No problem. That's what the Artist Hour is focusing on. It's not just musicians and bands in Stockton. It's not only in Stockton but in the Valley. It's artists in general. And so, what would you consider yourself as? What type of art do you do?
Okay, I was gonna say because it's very difficult to define art because art can have a very broad term to many people. But for me, I would very much like to consider myself a comic book artist or a graphic novelist or in the making because I've always wanted to draw comics ever since I started drawing. All I felt was I managed to make a character, but now what do I not want to say, but what do I want to see happen? I want to see like some amazing stories, like amazing action adventures, amazing like emotional romances, some crazy awesome what was it? Scenarios where people are just kind of like, where's just stories. I just like to draw comics.
What age were you when you started?
Okay, when I started drawing or when I started deciding I wanted to make comics?
Kind of both. Okay, when did you start drawing?
When I was 5.
Did you discover your talent then?
It wasn't so much talent, but it was a passion because my mother. Okay, I was in foster care, and then my mother came to visit me.
Me too. All right, foster care buddies.
We survived.
Yes, we did. We did survive.
Okay, so she came to visit me, and while we were waiting, she had not drawn, but she had colored something from a coloring book. And then when she showed me and my brother the drawing, I looked at it, and it wasn't so much that like I had a fascination with art, but if you were to grab 2 pictures, one showing her signature artwork, and then showing another one where it's like among another series of other artworks, what popped out to me was that I would be able to recognize it from her penmanship.
Okay.
And since then, I started wanting to draw to develop the same kind of style. And when I was 12, I started, watching superhero movies, and then I started picking up comic books. And then the first time I picked up a comic book, I looked at it, and I didn't really know what was happening, but all I knew is that it felt like a movie.
Which comic was it?
I forgot what it was.
Do you remember? Was it more DC or was it more Marvel? Was it a different one?
I don't remember because it looked like one of those really cheap kind of like knockoff, like not even not name brand, but it didn't look like a big comic. It was just like a small one that was kind of like this big.
Okay.
And then all I remember was that there was a drama, and then somebody was being dumped, and then somebody was being somebody was being like angry, and then I was just like, wow, there's so much things happening in these small little pages just off of drawing the characters and writing the words.
Yeah, it's definitely it's pretty cool to be able to express and tell a story based off that. It's cool to open up, back in the day you open up your newspaper, and then at the back you got your Sunday comics, and you got Garfield or Richie Rich, and so it's cool to be able to look at this little design and tell a story with it. And that's pretty cool how you found and how you got into it. Now when you decided you wanted to do this, did you attempt to copy what you saw?
No. I looked at how comics were, and then I thought to myself, it's not just about making comics, but it's about making art. And remember when I told you when I was in foster care, I saw my mom's drawing and I saw her signature style. I thought to myself, how can I make a comic that seems and feels like it's coming from me?
Yeah.
Like not coming from me, but it's one that you'd be easily able to recognize that it's one of my works. And I thought to myself, how can I make something on a piece of paper just pop out and be, how can I develop that signature? So I started thinking, I'm not going to look at comic books. I'm going to watch movies, and I'm going to play video games. Not play video games because I want to have fun, but because I want to understand what's happening right in front of me.
What
Like,
type
this
of
is-
video games are we talking? Adventure, MMORPG games.
I'd look at a bunch. When I was studying video games, it was during the PS2 era.
Mm-hmm.
You had Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi.
Definitely, PlayStation has a lot of.
What did you say to me?
PlayStation has a lot of definitely cool titles when it comes to story arcs
Mhm.
within their games.
And have you ever played Sly Cooper?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
What's
Well,
it about?
It's about he's a raccoon, an amorphous raccoon, but he's a burglar, and he goes around like stealing from other thieves. And
Okay.
he's going to go get this book that's called the Thieves Raccoonus that was ripped open, and then there's all these pages scattered. He's trying to gather them together so he can learn the old techniques of his ancestors. So this way he could become a better thief and
Okay.
steal more. So like that, when I read it, well, not read it, but when I played Sly Cooper, I liked the way that the characters were developed, because you had Bentley, who was a turtle character, total nerd that always spoke very specifically, and he always had like anything that was funny that came from him. It was always in what he would say, not really how he would say it, but he was the brains of the entire operation.
Okay.
And each personality complemented each other in a way that was kind of like it was just natural. It felt like the characters like they were actual friends, because they grew
Okay.
up as friends. They felt like they were a group of friends, and it was
Okay.
totally fun. When I had studied that, I thought to myself, here you have a team dynamic that can work to build a heist. Now, imagine if you have a team dynamic that can do a heist, but also do much more. You have to think to yourself, what more can they do?
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, Christian. Can you speak into the microphone just a little bit more? You can bring
Yeah.
it closer to you, even if you want to be more comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just so that it picks you up better.
okay,
Better?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. You're picking me up?
Yep.
Okay.
I got you, girl.
yeah,
Oh no. We're having a little bit of a audio technical issue, so if you hear
Oof.
me clapping, I'm trying to wake up the microphone. It's all good.
You
Yes.
just clap back with them.
Yeah. Clap back at it.
There
All
you
right,
go.
hold on. You're making everything clip.
Oh.
Don't do that.
my bad.
All right. So as you were saying before, you were so rudely interrupted by myself.
Oh, it wasn't rude. It was a technical problem. It was completely understandable. Okay, so the train of thought was around. Okay, so you have a team dynamic where these people can make a heist, and I thought to myself, I'm going to watch more movies where you see group dynamics, so I can learn more of how people interact with each other. Like naturally, you see people already develop, like it's past the entire like vibing them out, kind of trying to feel them and understand them kind of process, and it's the next part where it's like, all right, who are they and how do they work in this world, and how can I work with them in this world?
Okay.
So it led to another layer that I had to study, where it's not just how can I learn about to make and create characters and how they would react to each other, but how do I create a setting that feels natural to the characters that I'm trying to make? And the more that I started to study and like learn and kind of like brainstorm, I thought to myself, I can't make a setting that is real, because for my style I have to make a completely different setting so everything can kind of make sense.
What type of style is it though?
The style is a weird hybrid mixture of fantasy and reality.
Okay, yeah, that's what I got. That's the vibe I got. Well, looking at some of your pieces, and it's
Yeah, because like here, okay. Oh, sorry.
no, that's good.
For him, you see him kind of clenching his fist. He's ready to fight. You see,
Sorry.
he's a very angry-looking individual, but it's the flames that really bring out the image, because it distracts you from his face. The title that I gave this picture was Call to Action, because he's being not interrupted, but he's being brought to a situation where he needs to be serious. He needs to be not aggressive, but he needs to be stern, and he needs to be dependable.
Okay.
So the character comes in full force, and you see the flames just coming off him. So it's just like it's a character that has no chill whatsoever. And I wanted to get the emotion on his face as much as I wanted to get the imagery.
I can kind of relate to that. Just a bit. Yeah, I can relate to him. Sometimes I feel like that's me inside, you know?
Like you have this like explosive fire of emotion that you just that it's to the point where it doesn't feel like it can stay within you. Like it's just oozing out.
Yeah. For the ones who are just tuning in, this is the Artist Hour and the Voice of San Joaquin. And we are sitting down with Cristian Lara.
Hi.
And he's talking and going over some of his art pieces that he's done. Are these profiles? Is that what you were... What would you call these?
I would consider this, well, personally, I would consider them sketches, but since I colored them in, they're more just images.
Okay. So when did you do this one?
This one I did last year in the fall, and this one I also did last year in the fall. This one I did earlier this year in the spring, and this one, I call it Happy Bot. I did it last night.
Nice. Yeah, you were telling me last night you were working on that.
Yeah.
So, what's the difference between this character now?
This character, the difference between these two characters? Okay.
So that character, who is that character?
His name is Folkbjorn, and he's, as I told you earlier, I know that some people will not be able to understand the stream of thought that's coming, but I explained to him earlier that I was developing a comic where there's these amazing characters. But okay, Folkbjorn, his name, it's two words together, folk and Bjorn,
Okay.
which means the people's bear.
Oh, okay.
And since he's the leader and, the chief of his people, he's kind of like the strongest guy. But he's also a villain because he has, for reasons I don't want to mention, I don't want to spoil the story, he's conquering and just exploring the entirety of the galaxy looking for something. And him, he's just another guy that lives in the galaxy that is just living his life and doing his own thing.
So both of these characters are part of the comic book you're working on.
Mm-hmm. And on a scale of, on a power scale, he outranks him tremendously.
Surprisingly, he looks buffer.
Mm-hmm. And that's just him with his coat on.
So how long have you been working on this? The story in the story arc.
Okay, the story itself, I've been working on it for 11 years, and the story arc, I've been working on it for 2 years.
It takes a lot of dedication.
Well, yeah, because I want it to be my life's work, and I want it to be as polished and as nice as possible, because I want it to be like, I really want this to be nice.
For sure, 11 years. That's dedication. That's as many years as I've been writing, and I understand that, I've been writing for like over a decade now, and I want it, I want that to be what I want to do in life. So when you come up with the story, are you writing the story out too?
The story is written as I develop each character. Each
Okay.
character adds to the story and to the scope of it. These two characters, they aren't related in any way, but within the story, they're going to have to end up crossing paths eventually. His story is he's a chief, he's leading an entire army of all these like Vikings, right?
Okay.
But him, he's just, again, another person living his life within an entire nation.
Does he have any importance into? I guess
he's more the introductory character.
Okay.
That through his perspective, you're able to see and understand the world that I want to introduce. So this
Okay.
way, the rest of the story, it comes in after he's done bringing in some perspective for the audience.
Okay. For sure. So when you started the story arc 2 years ago, how was that?
The story arc starts with this. The entire universe is in chaos.
Okay.
The person that everybody would turn to and rely and know that would be the savior is gone.
Is that a character
It was
later on you're gonna learn throughout the story?
He will be introduced when his introduction is appropriate. But he's the
Okay.
character that I told you that exists within the past, present, and future
There
at
you
once.
go. That's. I
So
like
in
that.
order for him, and his name is Paradox.
There you go.
I dig it. I
And
dig it.
it's not a name, but it's more his anointed title.
Right.
Okay.
Because he didn't want to be referred to as a name anymore, because at that point he realized that who he was no longer exists. Like, he's a profound character that is he's just like swirling with understanding and mystery and all this kind of like intrigue. His character arc is he must not exist for him to develop the power, understanding, and scope to bring into the universe to save the universe. So
Okay.
in order in order for a peaceful future to exist, he must not exist, so that he must learn what it means to not exist.
That's awesome.
That's a really.
It
cool
reminds me a
character.
little bit of the at least the properties of existing in past, present, and future of the Q in Star Trek Next Generation.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah. Are you familiar with that character?
I am not, but I want to hear about it.
All right, so Q is essentially. Are you familiar with the series Next Generation?
I am not.
Captain Picard, make it so. All right, so Patrick Stewart, the bald.
Yes, the
bald Captain
renowned
Kirk,
the renowned
basically,
actor. Yes.
and I'm gonna get so much heat for saying that. But basically, he's got this like nemesis type thing that comes up every so often in the series, and it's
Mhm.
always like to teach him some sort of lesson, because he's always portrayed as this flawless leader. You know, he's always the person who is able to go above his own humanity almost sometimes
Yeah.
to set an example.
Yeah, he
So-
knows what to do and when to do it.
Right, exactly. And you can always count on Captain Picard to save the day, right? Q comes in out of nowhere. He's or it's an entity. He's portrayed as a man
Mhm.
who like pops in and out of whatever he wants. Sometimes he'll like grab Picard and take him off to like some other time in history or whatever. And he's always there kind of like messing with him to kind of let him know like you're still a human being.
Yeah.
You're still just flesh and bones. You know, you may be traveling in the galaxy and whatnot.
But
you're
within
still-
the within the eyes of the universe, you are still
you're,
a man.
You're less than a speck of sand. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But I like the fact that Q moves throughout dimensions and time frame and timelines and whatnot freely. He's able to go poof, you know, and he's wherever he wants. And I think I remember there was an episode, if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me, where he loses that ability at some point, or he's
Mhm.
not able to leave, which makes it, you know, you're humanizing now the deity type character. So it just, you know, your Paradox character sort of reminded me of that a little bit.
And what I find to be very interesting is that this Paradox character that I created, he's such a tremendous paradox because in the way that I've always brainstormed him, because he's a character that starts off evil, continues as good, but then he continues to do some evil to perpetuate good. Like, he's a character that is always conflicted and always swirling with like, he's always walking these two extremes.
Right.
And you know how I explained to you that he becomes immortal?
Yeah.
He still has an end
Oh.
Right.
Is it in
He's
his
a
future
character-
or more in his present?
in the future.
The future.
Because I didn't explain to you, but in his past, he was a villain, a horrible person that
Okay.
he would topple entire civilizations. He would destroy the infrastructure. He would be a horrible person.
Right.
And then when he's finally imprisoned, he's set to life in prison, but he's not set to hang because the people wanted to see him during his final years. They wanted to strip him of his kind of like, they wanted to take away his legacy.
Right.
So he's not going to be executed. Instead, he's going to wither away.
Right.
Time will continue, and he will just be another man in a cage.
So he won't be
Not
relevant.
in a cage, but he will be another man in confinement.
Right.
He
right.
won't be relevant then.
He won't be
in
able
some
to
way.
also either.
It's not that he's not relevant, but all the people and that would support him would realize that he's just another man,
Right.
just like every person that walks the universe.
Okay.
And
Right.
when he's in that prison, I told you that he envisions and then he focuses and manifests. He envisions, focuses, and manifests the only thing that he wanted, which was freedom.
For
And-
everybody who's just tuning in, real quick, you are listening to the Voice of San Joaquin and Stockton Community Radio. We are live on 89.5 FM KBCC Tracy. We are a local multimedia community broadcasting network. This is The Artist Hour. We are on every Thursday night at 8 p.m. featuring local artists from the Stockton and Central Valley areas. Tonight we have Cristian Lara presenting us his art, and you were talking a little bit to us about your series that you're working on.
Yes, it's
So
comic book.
I sorry to interrupt. I did not get the memo for that whole thing. I gotta go home.
It's
and
all
study.
good. I got you.
homework now.
I got you. You just do your thing. I'll be the machine that says the messages.
He's not a machine.
He's not a machine.
He's a
He's-
beast.
He's a human with a lot of character.
Yes.
Sometimes.
So you're a paradox character.
Yes.
So he gets locked up in this cage, right?
Hey.
He's in prison for life.
He's imprisoned with a life sentence.
So how did he get caught though?
He gets caught because as any renowned rebellious, like as anybody who knows, okay, let me back up a little bit. Anybody who plays dirty knows that everybody else that plays the dirty game is not on your side, really.
That's true.
At any moment the entire table can flip over. People are playing cards under the table while they're playing cards on the table. There's two games being played at once. If there were only to be two games being played, but there can be many games being played at once. So he's betrayed by people that would previously take his side. He's taken down by multiple institutions that want to see him stop. Because remember, he would topple not organizations. He would take down civilizations. So multiple societies would they would band
Yeah.
together.
So is this a team effort to take him down, basically?
to take him down, to stop him and disable him from being able to take any more power and cause any more chaos within the universe.
Okay.
And you know how I told you his name is Paradox?
Yeah.
Previously he was an entity of chaos, but then when he's reborn, he comes in as an entity of order and peace.
Okay.
So when he's in prison, the only thing that he could ever ask for and ever want is freedom.
Of
He
course.
focuses-
I mean, you're in prison there. You want to get out.
Yes, but it's not so much that he wanted freedom to be wherever he wanted to be, but he wanted the freedom to be away from anything he didn't want to be.
Okay.
He wanted the freedom and isolation from the situation that he was in. So he focused really hard, and then he channeled all his energy into the very idea of freedom, and he was given that by the universe, but at the cost of his mortality. He's to forever live, and he's to
Jeez.
continue his life going and going and going until he's granted the freedom that he was that he was not promised but bargained by the universe.
It's kind of like the universe is taking something from him
Mm-hmm.
as he's taking something from the universe. In the way you try to explain it to me.
He imposed he broke his path by saying, I choose to deny death, but in that the universe says, okay, you can deny death, but you will be denied of any sort of you will be denied of the rest of the human condition. And when he's given when he's given immortality, his lifespan continues beyond generations. So it goes from the society sees him as this villain that committed atrocities, and everybody that looks at him sees a monster, to now people are seeing him. There's like, hey, that's the guy that that took down all these societies. Oh, look at him. And then it's come to the point where he's looked at like a zoo animal because he's immortal. They're just, when they speak about him, they say, there's the man that did so much evil, but now he cannot die.
So is he still imprisoned?
Yes. And it's not so much that people come to break him out, but his freedom is granted from the entire universe itself being in such disarray that it's just not a consequence, but it's a convenience.
Okay.
His freedom comes from a convenience. So the entire focus of him being imprisoned, you're just seeing that he's going through all this, but the universe around him is changing. There's people going to war. There's people trying to establish more. How can I put this? There's too much people in the world for just one thing to happen, and there's too much people in the universe for only one thing to come out of it.
Okay.
So there's all this chaos, and then eventually he's granted his freedom because the entire, how can I put this? War spans across all planets, and in it they, one person comes up with the plan to want to get him out.
Which person is that?
His devoted, how can I put this? It's not so much as a worshiper, but so much as a servant.
Okay.
A person who he has never met before, but someone who idolizes him to the point where they want to see him, that they want to see him back in the saddle and see him, wreak havoc on the universe. But then when he's given this freedom, he realizes that that's not who he can be anymore, because that man no longer exists. That man, in him not having the option to die anymore, that previous man who was destined to die, he really did die in a sense, because he's gone. He's no longer that man. He's a man that has been
Reborn,
reconstituted.
in a way.
Yes, like his previous character was shattered, and he's a person that works in the same similar function, but with a completely put it like a painting. You can make an image, but if you were to destroy the image and recreate it, it's like it being recreated in different colors, in a different color palette.
Okay.
So instead of the yellow and the green being there, it would be blue and pink. And instead of red, let's just say that it's silver.
Okay.
It could be a complete, down to the molecule, it can be a complete copy of this image, but it'll be a different color palette.
Okay. Just
And the
evolved in a way.
Yeah, and the different color palette will be the kind of different value system that he interpreted while he's in prison. And when he's released from prison, that's when his journey to become, the protector of the universe, that's when it begins.
That's the present day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, the present time, is he learning? Does he have to learn anything? So this is a whole complete different journey now, right?
Mm-hmm. The present takes, the present is within a scope of a couple of years, and at the beginning of the scope, that's when he's released from prison, but shortly he vanishes.
Okay.
After committing a bunch of great acts to redeem himself, he vanishes. And within that time frame, more chaos ensues.
Okay.
Within that time that he vanishes, he realizes that he's come to learn and understand so much that any human could not, it's not that they couldn't hold a candle to him, but any thought that a human can create, he's already thought and understood it. So he realized, in order to understand more and to become more, I must become nothing. So he makes a contract with the universe. He will not exist anymore if he can return to exist. He will cease his existence to return his existence.
Okay.
And when he ceases to exist, he discovers these things that reside within oblivion, called nightmares.
What
And
are
nightmares themselves are an abstract concept. When you think of a nightmare, you think of you're having a dream and then everything just goes wrong. Within the way I interpret nightmares within the story, is that they're non-existent entities that fight to manifest within existence.
Okay.
So,
And what about recurring nightmares?
recurring nightmares?
Yeah.
Recurring nightmares are the same idea and concept and constitution of a nightmare that is trying to exist, trying to establish and manifest itself within existence. But before that, the nightmare can't exist.
I like that. I like that.
And the only way that a nightmare can gain power is when a person is they're experiencing the nightmare, and then when they see the nightmare in the eye, if they flinch, that nightmare is able to take their sleep away from them, take their energy away from them, and manifest itself into a more stronger entity so that it can reach into existence.
Okay.
Dude, I'm so into that.
Yeah.
You remind me of hanging out with my buddy Leo in Argentina. He was an American living out there, and he was all into, like, you know, just different series. He's the one that got me into Star Trek. He's the one that would just, like, break it down the way you're breaking it down. But he would be like, no, bro, like, tonight we're watching Star Trek, and, like, I'm going to break it down for you.
And when, yeah.
That's how I got into it.
When
Like,
you break it
I'm
down,
so into
when you break it down, it's a little easier to understand the
I
concept.
feel like it's more appealing.
yes, it is.
And that way, when you're watching it or reading it, I feel like it makes it, for somebody who's maybe not as quick to pick up on the subtleties of a I don't want to call it a fantasy, but of a
fantasy and
composed
reality.
story.
Yes.
I feel like I appreciate those subtleties, and you know, being able to discuss them with somebody just brings them out for somebody who's lame like me. Way
It's
more.
not lame.
It makes
It's
it no.
totally
I'm just saying,
awesome.
it just no. I'm just not able to grasp all those subtleties right away when it comes to a fantastic story. So when I hear somebody like you break them down so appropriately correct in a way that somebody who's so slow to pick it up can understand it like me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's not so much that it's a slow time to pick it up, but more like the way that I've created the nightmares, I would have to explain them for them to be for them to be understood for their role within the story.
Right.
And remember how I said this paradox character, he returns to existence? He returns with these sort of organisms, but not they're not seemingly organic.
Now, are they in the future? Is this the future now?
It becomes the present.
Okay.
When he returns with these entities that don't quite seem natural,
Okay.
but they take on the form of humans.
Oh. So they're kind of like out of the universe type things, right?
Mhm. And they serve him.
Mm.
And when it's further explained, all this like profound, crazy stuff, it'll unravel itself the more I tell the story.
For
But
sure.
going back to the nature of a nightmare, how would you describe a nightmare? Like
Mm.
in its nature. Like how would you describe the nature of a nightmare?
I'd say something that has fear in it. Something that I'm afraid,
Mhm.
in a sense of like I'm scared to lose something, or something that, yeah, it is pretty scary in my opinion.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, basically. Or like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago I had a nightmare that I couldn't speak. And like
Oh, that just means you're possessed, dude.
no,
Totally. You just wake up.
Oh,
and you
that's
can't
not
talk,
good.
And
I hope
that's
not.
for sure. That's for sure. You got a demon putting his hand on your mouth.
I hope not. But the nightmare was like everything was falling apart in front of my eyes, but I couldn't speak and there was no sound coming out of my mouth.
The nightmare could show that you feel as though if any tragedy were to happen, you would be powerless. That's how you would feel.
Basically.
Boom, son.
Now, that's just a dissection of the nightmare that you had.
Can I do one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. So I had a reoccurring nightmare growing up, and I haven't had it in a long time, but it's always me in an empty bus,
Yes.
and this empty bus like dives off the freeway, right? It's like one of those like interchanges, so it's like above whatever other traffic is below, and it flies off the freeway, and I'm always in the front, and I'm always seeing the ground coming up, and then then I wake up as soon as it hits the ground.
Gee.
Yes. Now, in this bus, are there other people in it?
No, it's completely empty. Not even a driver. It's just me.
Okay. Buses are meant to symbolize the path of life that you travel down. When I had a dream about a bus a couple weeks ago, I was in a bus speaking to one of my friends, and there was no one else. And then the next day, circumstances led to me and the friend walking and talking. Now, the bus could represent that within your path of life, you do feel like you are alone, and you feel like the entire path that you follow is only yours, but you feel as though it is leading to disaster. And it could be that that's because your fear of disaster is causing you to feel that way. But if you start to manifest that the direction of your life could lead to more greener pastures and towards a, how can I put this, a more sparkly, glittery,
Rose petal.
heavenly future.
Right.
If you start to envision what to you would feel like heaven, then you would start to steer yourself in that direction.
I needed that, man.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
Oh, okay. So now back to the explanation of the nightmare. Usually, nightmares have a purpose to tell you something. Within this story, the nightmares do not want to tell you anything because they want to exist, to absorb power, and to be.
Oh,
Because to not be to them, it. Oh, I haven't even understood the nightmares yet. They're that hard and that complex to understand. But anyway, back to it. The nature of a nightmare is the sequence. It isn't the purpose, it isn't what's happening, but it's the sequence itself. What is happening in the nightmare. Because if you were dreaming of, let's say, a Black Widow, then it could mean that there was a feminine there's a feminine entity in your life that is trying to manipulate or trying to contact you.
okay.
Yeah.
That sounds relevant to
And
me.
the way that
on the nose.
Yeah, right on the nose.
the way that I want to
Josh,
kind of
you guys
portray
talked before this or what?
No, man. We haven't.
the way that I want to portray this nightmare concept is as a sequence. They don't speak words, they don't speak dialects. Instead, when you are to look at them and understand them, it would seem like you're not communicating with it. Instead, it's showing you a sequence, and then from that, you're beginning to understand what you need to. So
Okay.
it doesn't need to tell you anything, it just needs to be. It's come to the point where if a nightmare is to be, let's say, theoretically speaking, a nightmare is to be brought into this existence, but to a point where it doesn't wreak havoc. And you're able to interact with it. And you're able to understand it.
Hold on. So the nightmare, the entity, we are naming it the nightmare,
Yeah.
is the embodiment of the fear of coming to existence?
No. Each nightmare has a different purpose based on what the sequence leads and how the sequence ends. Like the entire sequence is what designs the nightmare. Think
Okay.
about, and this is what serves a lot of inspiration for me to create the nightmares.
All right.
Dubstep.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
You'd think that's what it is, but dubstep has to have different instruments, different materials, different techniques implemented to make a song sound good, but the dubstep in itself is a sequence created by the composer.
That's true.
And a nightmare, if it has the right tone, song, and rhythm and sequence, you can envision it.
Okay. That makes a little more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to put it.
I'm still confused, but I'm excited.
That's a very good feeling, and I love that feeling.
I'm confused, but I want to check it out too, so I can understand it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And this is just the nightmares within the story. There's still the entire plot.
Now, I'm sorry, guys. I may have missed this during the beginning while I was dealing with all this, with our little technical difficulties. But are you planning on making this into a movie itself? Or are you planning on printing it, or what's your heaven for this piece?
What's the goal what's the title first?
Okay, the title is Chronicles of the Nub Club.
Okay.
And the title is just referring to the group of characters that centralize the story.
Okay. Is this going to be a series?
Yes. There's going to be different... I'm not saying it's a series as in, like, there's different universes and there's different ways to tell a story. No, it's one linear story, but the series itself bounces from one perspective to another to continue the plot in a way that will explain the universe and explain the story efficiently and effectively.
So is this gonna be a book?
Right.
In a way, because I want to make it a comic book.
Okay.
Because
so
I want to make the images
Right.
just as amazing as how I feel I want to make the
Are you
writing.
planning
So-
on having no text and just make it all illustrations so that
During some points. So
Okay.
this
I
way,
like that.
the imagery can explain everything. Like when the nightmares are introduced, it's going to be nothing but just the imagery.
Okay.
And it's going to be nothing but just how I can convey the nature of the nightmare within the page. Like it's gone from the nightmare as a sequence to the nightmares trying to communicate to how do I draw this? How do I draw what I want this to feel?
Now with when I asked if this is gonna be a series, is this gonna be a series of comic books, or are you gonna tell this whole story into one whole comic?
One whole comic, and the different chapters, the different parts, the different volumes are the story. So it's
Okay.
just one entire story, straight off. And there's no multiple universes. This follows a singular universe theory, which is
until Disney buys it. I'm
There you
kidding.
go.
I'm kidding. Don't look at me like that. I'm kidding.
if Disney were to try to buy it, I would want to tell them, please keep it a singular universe. Because, like, okay, a singular universe has a beginning and an end, and everything that happens is already set in stone.
Like a physical beginning and an end.
Yes.
Okay.
So this way, the beginning of the story and the end of the story, they can be strung together. But most importantly, the reason I want it to be a singular universe theory is because of the paradox character. Because if he were to not be, then they were to be like, oh, then where did he go? Did he go to another universe? It's like, no.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
he
Right.
just
Right. Right.
doesn't
You want to
exist,
be able
you
to limit it.
Yeah.
So that you can to make everything work.
Yes, and if there's
Awesome.
parallel or multiple universes, then it just waters down this universe's story.
Right.
Because then it's like, oh, in this universe,
It's like
this
you don't want to
happened.
use
Yeah.
a cop out. It's like a
Yeah.
cop out. Because then,
So-
if anything, you could just always jump to another universe, another storyline, a whole other series. Like,
So
yeah,
so
and then it
makes it
just
easier.
it dulls the effect of how important each character is and how each segment of the story feels.
so the
Right.
reader's gonna read from front to the back, the whole story. Do you plan on maybe having a prequel, a sequel, a spin-off?
Considering that the entire universe itself is the story, any prequel, sequel, or spin-off is the story. But
Okay.
it would have to remain canonical to the original version that I have been writing.
Okay.
And nothing could really, like, the reason I want it so hard to be a singular universe theory is so that nothing can be adjusted, and the rules within this universe, they can be followed accordingly. So this way there's no, oh, but you know, there's whatchamacallit, there's an exception to this universal rule that can be broken within this volume, and this other volume doesn't follow another rule. Like, I don't want things to start getting convoluted and to start being inconsistent, because
Okay.
then it'll topple the logic of the rest of the story itself.
Okay.
It'll
for
create fallacies that I would have to retcon or I would have to rewrite to be able to fix to continue the story.
Okay, for sure.
you are listening to TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin Community
TVJ.
Radio, 89.5 FM, KBCC Tracy. We are a local nonprofit multimedia community broadcasting network. You are listening to the Artist Hour every Thursday at 8 p.m. Tonight we have Cristian Lara. Josh, you want to go ahead and give us the announcements before we
sure.
close it out?
So, there's always shows coming up.
Mhm.
There's
There is
always
always
events
shows coming
always
up.
coming up within the
We
community.
got 5 minutes.
Yes, that is true. I gotta start bringing you more into art events. There's always, man.
Yeah.
Besides music events, dude,
I
there's
would
art events
love to see,
everywhere. You
'cause,
need to
like-
showcase your art. That's what you need to do.
But I'd like to see the arts of others because they
Matt Moa.
have-
Yes.
Matt Moa art. He does everything, pencil sketching and everything. Well, I mean by hand. I'm
Yeah.
pretty certain he does everything by hand. Amazing detail, bold linings. It's really, really cool. There seems to be like a Rhett Fink influence in there, but I don't want to speak for him.
Mhm.
We are going to have him at some point on the show, so
Yes.
he might be able to explain
What
that to us.
what I wanted to announce. So, the Voice of San Joaquin, we have a event called the Tower Up series,
Mhm.
and it's a show to fundraise for the radio station. It's to get those towers up, hence Tower Up. And so far, we're getting a tower up in Tracy.
Mhm.
Then once that goes up, that's gonna be 98.5, or what was it 89.5, and then it's gonna be our tower up in Lodi. And so
Right.
this event is to fundraise so we can not only get more better equipment, but to get those towers up so we can be on FM.
Yes.
So the next show is going to be November 22nd at Blackwater Cafe, and it's going to have 5 bands. It's going to be Running Amok. Running Amok is a duo. They play country punk. We've had them on the show, I think, the
Yeah.
first season. Nam the Giver. They play alternative rock from Sacramento. P.S. Lookdown. They play alternative rock too. Different type of feel though. Nam the Giver is more instrumentals. They more focus on that. But P.S. Lookdown, they're from Sacramento too. And then Alta Luna, who I'm excited for, they're more heavier. They're more, I don't want to say more deathcore, but they're more hardcore in
Mhm.
a sense. And then the headliner, they're called Knockdown, and they're from Stockton.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Within this year, they've blown up. They have a record label, and they just, it's great to be able to book a band that started from the same city we are.
And their singer's playing bass for the Dirty
Yes,
Pillows.
man. I
Bro.
found that out
Talk about
yesterday. I was like,
supergroup?
yes. But Knockdown's gonna be headlining. It's gonna be November 22nd at Blackwater. Doors open at 5. Music starts at 6. It's gonna run to 11 p.m. 5 bands, $5 at the door, and all the proceeds goes to the Voice of San Joaquin. So that's gonna be really dope. I'm excited for that. I've been really pushing that. Other than that, that's all my events.
We do want to say thank you to Lodi Rock Fest for having us out there during their event. It was really cool. I wasn't able to make it, but Josh, you were there. You want to tell us a little bit in like a
Yes.
minute?
For sure. So
Quick.
the Rock Fest 2019, 40 bands,
Mhm.
2 places, 4 stages, and it was all to fundraise for our veterans this Veterans Day weekend. And luckily, my band, Worst Friend Forever, got to play Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And I just wanted to shout out to Kevin. He's been on our show a couple weeks ago, and
Mhm.
shout out to that. It was definitely a great event. We covered. We had a little booth there. Do you have any events coming up, Alejo?
I might be playing the Slaughterhouse on November 30th, but don't tell anybody yet.
Got you.
I'll let you know.
So, Tower Up, I'm going to be throwing this every month.
Mhm.
Maybe December we can have you and we can showcase some art, because I'm trying to expand the event too. I'm not just trying to have music. I'm trying to have a whole culture into it, the whole art culture. So maybe we can get you.
And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make some works so this way we can really
yeah,
put on a show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeet.
You know, and maybe we can get Matt Moa on it and have him showcase some art. Shout out to Doug for
Heck
watching
yeah.
on my Facebook.
Shout out to everybody. I got friends from Argentina watching.
Hey.
Shout out to Danny. Banger Sacramento's watching.
Hey, shout out
Shout
to
out to
them.
Banger Sacramento.
So, for sure, definitely going to be working together. And I know, do you mind moving your 2 little pieces?
Yeah.
So,
And yeah.
our raffle, we're going to be, you're going to be throwing that in our raffle?
Yep. You gotta have it.
Dang.
That's nice.
That
That's
is
really
nice.
nice. You want to describe that in like a couple, like 30 seconds, if you could? What?
I got tired of looking at it in my living room, and I was just like, you know what? Somebody else could enjoy this. Because every time I look at it, all I think to myself is, I made that.
There you go.
Right.
Was that hanging on your wall?
Yep.
I
It's
like it a
just-
lot.
That
Hey,
is.
it kind of looks like the Worst Friends Forever green, dude.
Oh.
Kinda.
Yes, it does. It's kind of funny because my band,
Kinda.
that's our colors: red, green, blue,
Mhm.
red. Yeah, red, green, blue,
Rally
and
around
green.
there,
Red, blue,
Gold.
red, blue, green, and yellow. And it's gonna be so cool. You're throwing that in our raffle. I have a big raffle, man. For all the artists and musicians that came in, they've given us some merch. Like, I got an accidentally murdered tank top. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Look at
I got
R.I.P. accidentally murdered.
I got Grade Blues shirt, and Grade Blue they play math rock. I'm not sure if you're kind of familiar with that, but I got their blue one fish, two fish, blue fish, grade fish shirt. It's kind of like a Dr. Seuss kind of theme shirt.
So yeah.
That one's really cool, but it's really
it's a
cool.
pun, a play on words.
Yes, it's really
Hey.
cool. You're gonna be throwing in that big P. You're gonna be throwing in those two
How are you gonna
pieces
put
too.
that in the bag?
Totally.
Yes. I don't know.
You can
I'm
always just set it to the side.
We're
I
just
mean,
gonna
it's-
shrink it and just put it in the bag. I'll probably leave that here at the station. Are you free November 22nd?
November 22nd.
It's a Friday.
Friday. Yeah, I definitely am.
Hey, you should come to Blackwater.
Mhm.
We can raffle that off that night of
Dude, totally.
at the Tower Up.
Sounds great. I'll talk to you so this way I can make sure that that I see all the directions and kind of like see how I'm gonna arrive. You know,
Okay.
get myself ready, and I'll
for
come
sure.
over.
Definitely, yeah. We should wrap it off November 22nd, Friday at Blackwater. Whoever's watching and you see that piece, you want that, show up to our Tower Up show.
All the cool kids are coming, and if you don't come, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're
it is
no
cool.
less cool for not doing something that we
'Cause-
tell you to do.
You know what isn't cool? Not taking care of your kids. And if you're taking care of your kids that day, you're cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Or
that is very
I'm
true.
pretty sure it's an all ages thing, right?
It is all ages.
Bring-
Bring your kids to Blackwater.
Yeah.
Yes, bring everybody there. You wanna close off the show, Alejo?
For sure. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been the Artist Hour on TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin Community Radio, 89.5 FM KBCC Tracy. Tune in next Thursday at 8 p.m. and